a debate between Mandela Barnes and Ron Johnson, one of the dumbest individuals in the Senate, I have to say. And it was a very innocuous last question to the debate, where the debate, moderators had said, we travel across Wisconsin. People don't like the rancor and the fighting and the meanness between the candidates. Can you tell us something that you admire about each other? And Mandela Barnes says, well, I admire the fact he's a family man. I think that's admirable, and he takes care of his family, and that's a good thing. And then Ron Johnson said, yeah, Mandela's a family guy, but also hates America. And that was basically what he said. And what I found really fascinating was, I think that actually hurts Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, just based upon what I know about Wisconsin. I'm not going to say it's, election changing, but that's not the way you want to end that debate if you're Ron Johnson, as far as I can tell.
Well, he got booed, so.
He got booed, and even
that'll be like the number one news story. Like, that's the number one takeaway people will take from a debate like that is he's uncouth.
Uncouth and mean and rancor. Do you want to vote for more rancor? I mean, frankly, I think people who turned against Trump, that's why they turned against him.
100%.
And but Mandela Barnes, I think, was a little bit more sneaky in his reply than you might think at first.
I overlooked this entirely.
This came from earlier in the debate, and maybe I'm just projecting, but I don't know. Well, play this clip.
Surrounding Lieutenant Governor Barnes' diploma, but we do know he got a degree in communications, specializing in performance. So he's a performer. He's an actor. And I don't know whether he's just delivering lines somebody wrote for him, or whether he's making this stuff up on his own.
Pause it for 1 second. Pause it for 1 second. I just want to remind people, do you remember what the big criticism of Obama was in the 2008 election? He's just reading from a teleprompter.
All right.
There is a little bit of coding in there. This guy's not so smart. He can just play one on TV. Go back.
In performance. So he's a performer. He's an actor. And I don't know whether he's just delivering lines somebody wrote for him, or whether he's making this stuff up on his own. But falsehoods just seem to roll off his tongue. So I suggest anybody watching this debate or the campaign take anything Mr. Barnes says with a huge grain of salt.
Well, go ahead. I would absolutely like to respond to that because,
go ahead.
Well, because the reality is the senator is going to try to run and distract from his record. He can't run from the fact that when there was an opportunity for him to provide support for public safety initiatives, he walked away. The American Rescue Plan allowed our administration to invest $100 million in the law enforcement, public safety, and crime prevention initiatives. Ron Johnson voted against it because he would rather play politics. And look, the biggest achievement in business was Ron Johnson saying, I do. He married into his business. Ooh. He didn't start that from the ground up.
All right.
And you take that where he's basically like, it's almost as if he used the admiration a moment of his answer later in the debate as a callback. He takes care of his family. I admire that. Now, if you go back earlier in what I said, you realize, like, really, his family took care of him.
Yeah, family man.
Yeah, family man. I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting on that, but that was a pretty.
I mean, if that's the case, that's pretty smart politics. I'm sure they had that lined up too, because this seems to be something that in these Senate races, the debates, they ask this all the time. Like, people are so sick of the division. Say something nice about the other. I remember they did that with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump as well. But I wish I remembered what he said there.
Yeah.
But so I would not be.
That's like that case. Like, what's your greatest weakness?
Yeah, right. It's a total job interview.
Predict. Yeah.
BS question. But I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if he did want to make that connection. So then people Google Ron Johnson family, and then that comes up.
Who knows? But that is a race that I think I think is going to be tough for Mandela Barnes. But who knows? Let's put it this way: if Mandela Barnes wins that race, I think I would imagine that it's a very, very good chance the Democrats will have at least 52 senators in 2023. If not, I think there's still a pretty good chance of the Democrats holding the Senate, but we shall see.
And it looks like, unfortunately, some of the opposition research about, Barnes's statements on, defunding the police or crime or things like that have seemingly had some salience in the polls. But I just feel like with every Wisconsin election, I believe that will be the same way with Tony Evers and the Republican candidate Tim Michels. I just think both of those races are going to be essentially splitting hairs when it comes to it on November, just because every big Wisconsin election seemingly is just completely divided down the middle.
Yeah, right. I do think this is better. Maybe he has a better chance than Tim Ryan in Ohio, just based on the redness of the state.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, those are the two opportunities.
He did really well in this debate, though, I feel like. Honestly.
Yes.
I think
yeah.
Who's that? Tim Ryan did?
Ryan did, but I also think Barnes did here as well. Barnes did, I think, a very
Barnes
good job
is a good
here.
candidate.
And we should say the polling shows Tim Ryan closer to J.D. Vance than Barnes to Johnson.
Which I don't think any of us really anticipated coming into, the fall.
But Tim Ryan has just such a history in that state and has built up a lot of equity with people and has name recognition.
He also has a model for how you win as a Democrat in that state, and it's Sherrod Brown. Now, Tim Ryan is not as progressive as Sherrod Brown, but it's one of those states where you can be very pro-labor and address the concerns of what's happened in that state in terms of industry and industry leaving. And so he's got that model there, and he seems to be sort of using it. So I guess we'll see.